Hey everyone, welcome back to CryptoCache. Thanks so much for joining me here. Hope you're having a fantastic day as per usual. Happy, what is today? Today's Thursday, right? Happy Thursday to you and your family. We're looking at Bitcoin here, helping understand best practice and big picture, and really just kind of taking a look at the results from yesterday, post FOMC meeting, 0.75 basis points, standard stuff there. We're kind of expecting that, and the price should have been baked in, but we saw a little bit more of a sell-off than expected. So again, not terrible, not bad by any stretch. This is pretty much right where we kind of expected the price to average itself out anyways, but we'll take a look at that and much more, kind of peek over at the traditional markets and see what's going on. Bitcoin's actually performing a lot better than regular markets right now. Just keep that in mind. So that being said, if you want to become a better trader, just to quickly note, CryptoCache.tech is a website, link in the description below. I've got over 244 active members right now, basically just learning and growing together. We've got an academy. I send out signals for every single trade that I take as well. It's an awesome experience. Some of the signals that I sent out recently was for, Matic. That was more recent here today. But when it comes to, just say some of the profits that we took here recently, we took Solana profits over the weekend at 93%, 128% for BNB. And then, of course, some quick profits yesterday. What was it from Ethereum, if I'm not mistaken, right at about 57% in 33 minutes. So we kind of rolled the dice, so to speak, with the FOMC meeting because it did spike up after it shortly, after it decreased, of course. We can look at that here in a moment. But generally speaking, mostly positive here in that sense. If that is something that you're interested in. So if you want to become a better trader, again, CryptoCache.tech is the website. I can't speak today, I apologize. You'll hear me fumbling about. But the last thing I do want to note is just, be sure to join Bitget. Use the link in the description below so you can be eligible for their giveaways. King's Cup Global Invitation is my most recent event here where we've got a handful of traders and we're all going to see what we can do to win some big bucks there. So check that out in your own time. So here's where we're at with Bitcoin. First and foremost, the price action is roughly where it's supposed to be. And what I mean by that is after yesterday, pretty much every time we've had an inflation type of situation, the price action will decrease initially and then inevitably increase. So, if we take a look at yesterday's, price action, you can see some interesting stuff. And we'll actually look at that here in a moment. Let's go ahead and address the obvious first and then get down to the nitty gritty. Oh, you know what? Before we do that, even still, here's something to note also. Regular markets are down by 1%. They've been down for 4 days straight. Okay, so NASDAQ is down 4 days straight. S&P is down even still 4 days straight because even though that's a green candlestick there, hammer up, it's still gapped down significantly overnight in the pre-market hours. So that being said, if those markets are down by 0.5 to a full percent and Bitcoin's performing at 0.5% or higher, that's a positive sign in the sense that there's somewhat of a support level here if you think about it. Because if the regular markets are going down and Bitcoin's going sideways, I like to celebrate that, or at least just understand that that's the relevancy there. Same thing here as well. When Bitcoin's going mostly sideways, the traditional market's doing mostly down. So you got to recognize that Bitcoin has likely found its bottom, and not saying that 20,000 is its bottom right now, but it certainly feels like it. Okay. Obviously, we see a 3-4% correction from traditional markets tomorrow. Bitcoin's going to feel the pinch and the squeeze, but generally speaking, it's still looking pretty darn good. Okay. So that being said, just something to kind of understand the general sense there that I'd be cautious and careful shorting Bitcoin depending on the type of trader you are, just based on the fact that we could very well see a recovery here soon. All right, so let's look at the probability of that. Taking a look at the moving averages first and foremost, we can kind of see here that we're above the 20 and the 50. So being above the 20 and the 50 is positive. The 20-day simple moving average is commonly a trend setter, so a lot of times you can see an ascending type of trend based on that. So we could literally draw a line out here from that 20-day simple moving average and expect a potential bounce. Okay, it doesn't always happen, but it can happen and does happen often. In fact, I just covered Matic earlier today, and the ascending trend that Matic has right now is concurrent exactly with the 20-day simple moving average, more specifically so on the daily. So again, that's the beautiful thing about the moving averages. It tells us the last 20 days we are increasing in value, and the average price right now should be 19,858, whereas the price action is higher than that, therefore working as a support level. Okay. RSI, we can see RSI is potentially bouncing off 50, and the likelihood of the price action continuing higher is greater. Not saying there's a guarantee there, and it didn't technically even bounce off that yet, but the bottom line is it's getting close to a relative center of support. And that's a positive sign. It really just reiterates that 19,800 to 20,000 is a strong support range. As I've identified in most recent previous videos, just the fact that we're seeing that as a very positive sign. A slightly disadvantageous sign here is the fact that we are losing momentum on the MACD, which doesn't necessarily imply it's going to diverge completely. It just implies that we're losing bullish momentum. And it's pretty obvious that we've done that because we hit that resistance shelf here right at about 21,000 and got rejected. And of course, FOMC from yesterday didn't really help anything out of it much. Okay. So again, that's kind of where we're at there with Bitcoin in that sense on the daily. I'd say more positive than negative, but still not phenomenal, right? Just kind of mostly breaking even. And if we see here, we're below both the 20 and the 50 on the 4 hour, but above the 200. To me, the 200 is the most important on the 4 hour time frame, and it's averaging itself out at 19,700. So in the last 200 4-hour candlesticks, we've seen the price action above 19,700. Okay, that's a positive sign, really just reiterating the fact that we're on the right side of the tracks there in that regard. Taking a look at the RSI, we are under 50 on the RSI, so this tells us that the short term, or like this midterm, so to speak, we are bearish. And what that basically just implies is that we are making lower highs and lower lows, even still. I wouldn't say it's like dramatic. We could be potentially hitting our bottom here with like, it's kind of an ugly one, but you could be seeing a double bottom here for the price to come up. But generally speaking, we are still making and printing lower lows and lower highs. Okay, so that just kind of reaffirms itself and the fact that we might want to extend this trend line out and kind of see roughly how much further it will go. Okay, so in that sense, when we kind of see the RSI on the 4 hour under 50, and we can see a bearish type of divergence here, which it is dissipating, mind you. We can kind of extract that the 4 hour time frame doesn't look fantastic, and that we might still see a little bit more red before we see further green to the upside from Bitcoin. But it is averaging itself out at this nice 19,800, 20,000 range, and to me that's a positive sign. And technically this most recent low hasn't broken below the most previous low for that previous ascending trend at 20,100. So to me, again, a closure today at the current price point or higher would be positive to allow for us to probably break this descending trend in the near future. But once again, at this point, we kind of see still conflicting information in the 4 hour. It doesn't really tell us a definitive direction it wants to head. All right, taking a look at the 1 hour, we can kind of see some ugly behavior here, of course, as a result of this FOMC from yesterday. So that was a pretty ugly candlestick. I mean, take a look at this guy here. That is super, super ugly. That's like I don't know, it's something you see out of a movie, I guess. I don't think I'm explaining that correctly, but you get the gist. It really was not a pretty sight. It is standard for FOMC to do that. Like as soon as 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time or 2 p.m. Eastern hits, just goes bonkers. It literally hit the bottom and the top within 5 minutes. Like that was a crazy range. I don't think it was too much. I mean, honestly, it's only a 3% correction. We've seen a lot worse in the past. So I'm not like super concerned with it, but it is definitely an interesting phenomenon. If you ever check that out, watch the next FOMC meeting. It's probably, I think it's in December. I forget the specific date. I'll notify you if you're part of my community, of course. But what we want to talk about here, just really quick, is, well, TD sequential, because what it does, it came down, obviously, had this pretty major sell-off once Jerome Powell, thank you very much, reduced the price action quite significantly, hit all the stop losses for some folks, and essentially bounced off of a 5 here. So again, all was well and good here when the meeting started. The price 0.75 was baked in, but he kind of had some ominous comments, and it didn't really help very much, kind of letting us know that this isn't the end of inflation. Okay, so that being said, it bounced off of 5, came up to a 7, reduced itself to a 7, now we're up to a 4. So in all reality, what it's doing right now, it's kind of working itself into somewhat of a wedge. You can kind of see that it's trying to figure itself out. I'm not drawing very correctly here. In fact, I actually am drawing worse with my right hand than I did with my left. Funny how that works, right? But generally speaking, we're seeing a type of descending type of wedge, but we could potentially see a breakout to the upside from here. So it really just depends on where the price action goes from here, of course, to see where we're at. But what we want to look at is the Ichimoku cloud and kind of identify, because here's the thing with the cloud. Conversion lines below the baseline giving us the identification we have a lot of momentum to the downside. Okay, that essentially should reverse itself, but generally speaking, that's a bearish sign. We're also underneath the cloud itself as well with the upper and lower lead. Second bearish sign. The third bearish sign, you could say, would be the lagging span here, but it's about to intersect with the price action. What that really just tells us is that if you have a short position open, a conservative indicator that the Ichimoku cloud is, it's going to recommend that you go ahead and trim some of your position or close your short position. Now again, it's no guarantees. You don't have to necessarily trade specific on this one thing, But if you look at everything else that we've seen here so far, and the fact that Bitcoin is quote unquote finding its bottom, and that we have a strong support at 19,800 to 20,000 range, and we're right at that 20,200, I think there's a strong likelihood we're going to see the price come up than it would down. And I should rephrase that, because it's not a strong likelihood, it's just slightly better statistical probability. Like, I think there's a 60% chance that Bitcoin won't go much lower than 20,000, and a 40% chance it could, but we got to wait and see to get there. All right, so again, that's where patience comes into play. And if you are a currently community member, I think it's chapter 7 of my trading academy. You want to watch that maybe over and over again until it sinks in, because it's really hard to develop your own risk tolerance. It takes time, it takes practice, and to just teach patience is not something that's really easily done. So, you do have to kind of take it serious, but in that sense, I highly recommend watching that, because there's a lot of risk tolerance videos that I have about controlling emotions and things and strategies you want to be able to try to apply, because that's probably the most impactful thing in situations like this. And I think it's important to be patient, if you will, okay? Because again, we are descending. There's no doubt about it. We have a lot of bearish signs here, but how the market is responding, or how Bitcoin's responding to the market going down, is a very, very good sign. It shows that we have a strong amount of support at this range here, and we can see we have the second most amount of volume, or close to the second most amount of volume at 20,200. Okay, so again, decent support here based on the most recent trading data. So I think we're in pretty good shape here personally. I think we should slowly start seeing the price etch itself up as a result of, of course, the traditional markets going down. If we have a green day from the regular markets tomorrow, you can expect Bitcoin to jump pretty hard. It's going to break through that resistance level. It's going to break 20,500, get a nice strong short squeeze, and the price will probably shoot up from there. That's my hope and speculation. But generally speaking, at this point, I think we're still looking good, and we should absolutely see the price continue to increase in the relative near future. I wouldn't expect it right now or today, though. That's my speculation. I think that we're going to see maybe a slow increase if we were to. All right. So again, that's pretty much all we got here for today. Thank you so much for joining me. Hope you learned something here, of course. And if you want to become a better trader, again, CryptoCache.tech is the site. I look forward to working with you. Have a great rest of your day. Thank you.